And welcome back to another Weaver leather video. In this video I'm going to make this ridiculously absurd barbecue apron, and I'm going to walk you through some of my thinking for the metal bracket that holds the tools. I started thinking about how I was going to make this barbecue apron and what it could be, how it could be useful, and it occurred to me if we were going to hang tools off of this apron, I wanted to make sure that it was hanging off of something sturdy. It would have to hang off of metal, and then how's that metal going to keep from flexing around if it's going to be attached to the leather? And then has this apron going to hook over your shoulders? And then I realized I can combine the concept of the tools hanging with the concept of the apron itself hanging off of the body. And so what you see me doing here is making shoulder brackets. Those are my shoulder hooks. They're going to hang up, and we're going to weld it directly here to the tool carrier. And the tool carrier doubles. You see the double bar there. The tool carrier is going to double as the shoulder holder and the tool carrier and the apron holder. So that's three things. So there you go. And I'm using a 1/4 inch rod from the hardware store and a TIG welder. TIG stands for tungsten inert gas. There's a piece of tungsten right there at the end of that rod, just like that would be in an old light bulb. And when you heat it up, it creates enough heat to melt that weld. And you notice I'm not using any filler rod. It's just what's touching immediately melts together. There's a little bit of a filler rod for the back. And no, those hooks are going to carry tools. My original intention was to have those hooks be more braces that carry, like a magnet, for instance, something for the tools to not swing on. This, I started to go into the idea of absurd, making it silly. And so I was like, you know what? I have these tools with these little hooks in the back. Let me just let them hang. It'll be funny to watch them swing and sway in the video. But in reality, this isn't actually a good idea in the way that you can wear a vest that carries tools. And that's why I started taking this idea seriously, but I was having fun with it. A lot of people thought this was kind of ridiculous, but I see a bigger concept in it. Now, this beautiful leather that was provided by Weaver, this leather, when you bend it, it creates highlights and depths to the colors. It really, really looks beautiful. Now, I'm just backing my cut. I work on my CNC table most often because it's the one table that never has anything on it. It's always ready for a cut. And when I do cut, I want to back that cut with a piece of scrap wood there, or even a cutting mat would be good. Now here I'm just kind of jumping right in. I needed a reference point, and I truly believe I could always fix any mistake. I developed confidence over years that if I screwed something up or if I made a bad judgment call, I could fix it. And I could actually make something better because I have a reference. Does that make sense? If I overthink it, I get too cautious, and then I'm too afraid to make the change. I've developed the confidence to just jump right in and do it. And I just hit it with a little bit of spray glue because I'm going to punch a few holes, and I want to make sure they're all in the same spot. If I was to punch them individually, and knowing me and how I can read a ruler backwards as a dyslexic, I just always try and work practically, right in space. I punched all 5 of those holes right through both sides, and now I open it up because I just hit it with a little bit of a light spray glue, and now I jump to the rivet setting machine. It's important to notice that I have my rivet setting dies that I keep together with my rivets in the same jar. This could get really tricky if you have all these rivets or these different settings and you don't have the dies to set them, or at least you're not organized enough to keep them together. It can be frustrating. It's really important to keep those different parts together. So each snap has 2 pieces for each side. That's 4 pieces altogether. That's 2 different sets of dies. And you can keep the parts all separate, but I keep all the parts for one side together and all the parts for the other side together. So I just end up with 2 small jars of parts that I need. Now, making this snap removable because I wasn't 100% confident that I was going to be able to pull this idea off, and then also I didn't want to have to get to a point where I was working on this apron with that metal still stuck to it. the entire time. I wanted to be able to make it removable so I can make adjustments. Now I'm just doing this little jump ring. You can get all this hardware on the Weaver site, by the way. All these findings, all these clips, snaps, rings, everything's available on the Weaver site. This is a nice little splash rivet that goes into the cap. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to punch a hole. You can just zero in where you want to go, pull that lever, and you get that rivet nice set in there. My fumbly fingers, I need to use a pair of tweezers to load the machine. And there you have it. 2 beautiful set rivets, and you can make your work look professional. More jump rings. And those are a pair of scissors that I made in a video a couple months back. You can watch that video if you're curious. Now, this is a little brass clip. Again, this is all available on the Weaver leather site for test cut. I love this leather, how it stresses when you pinch it or bend it. It really creates a lot of highs and lows and tones. It's just so beautiful. And now I'm on to the pockets. Having a table with a full cutting mat, this is Taylor's table, it's amazing. Use the straight lines on that table to cut anything square. Now I'm taking a bit of a gamble here. I'm using these leather pockets and putting big darts in the corner because I want them to be puckered open. I'm using barge leather glue there to fold over the hem on the top. I want these pockets to kind of be available. I want them to be available for you to reach in and pull out and use. And by putting a nice hem on the top, you'll see when I bend it, keeps that pocket nice and at the ready. Now I'm using Weaver's incredible, I think this is the 205 walking foot leather machine. You can go through all kinds of saddle material with this. It's just unbelievable. And now these darts, like I said, it was a daring move because I could have got them wrong. I could have ended up sewing them to the front of the apron and not liking them and having to remove them, and by the way, creating a million holes where the stitch used to be. And I was just getting very daring. I was getting insecure about it, and when I get insecure about something, I know I have to work at it and get through it. And if I'm getting insecure, that means I'm doing it right. Now I want to glue these to the front of the apron. I'm using the barge glue to coat contact cement, let both sides of the brush dry, and then you stick it together. Now this Weaver box logo card just gives me placement of the barge glue on the opposite side, and by painting it around the card, I know that I must make sure both pockets fit on top of it and land in the same spot. I said this was a risky move. I could have really screwed this up, but right about now when I'm gluing it, I'm really starting to see it work. Right about here is when Taylor was looking at me from across the room going, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "I'm not sure about anything." Step back. Hold my barge glue. And so here we are, stitching it in place. I could not have done this if I was just trying to freehand it and hold it in place and vaguely remember the placement. You can't pin it. It's not like sewing fabric where you could pin something in place and then pull the pin out later. Anything you do to leather becomes evidence. Becomes evident. You want to make sure any markings you put on it look intentional, or at least feel rustic. And this walking foot is just unbelievable. It's nearly flawless. Of all the sewing machines I've ever used in my life, this never jams. I've never had any problems with the thread. Just unbelievable. And now I'm putting some of those splash rivets in the corners for reinforcement. And again, the nice thing is you just place it and pull on it, and you get the nice finishing findings. It's real important. It really dresses up the work for even something as simple as a silly barbecue apron that I'm making here. It really creates a professional look. Simple touches like that. And it also creates stress relief or strain relief right on the corners of the pockets, which is of course what the whole purpose of that is. And so I'm just giving a rivet around each side of the stitch line. And with that rivet setting machine like that, you can just go crazy. You could just set rivets all day long. And these pockets came out good. I was really nervous that I was going to mess this one up. And now you see, I'm going to try on the apron for size. snap it in place. I really do like this idea, and I'm going to cut those claws off this ultimately and put a magnet on the front of that. Here we go, the big test drive. Boom. And it feels nice. A lot of people don't believe me that that shoulder thing feels nice all day long. Anything you wear will be annoying. I personally never liked aprons because they're difficult to take on and off without having to pull all my headgear off. I drop my pencil, whatever it might be. Here I just can walk right into it and walk right out of it. Not the most 100% perfect fit for everybody. I made this to fit me. You would have to make yours to fit you. And these are my utensils. I'm trying them on the hooks for the very first time. I'm looking at myself in the camera, making sure that I'm going the right direction. Boom! There's my hot sauce. Boom. And a lot of people ask me about this grill. I did make this grill in a video from last spring. You could search it. And it's an Argentine grill. You crank the knob in the front and it goes up and down. And the scissors you can see there. And so I was just having fun. Just wanted to test drive this apron to make sure that things seemed okay. And one of the most important things is those big sturdy pockets to hold the hot sauce. I really encourage you to make your own barbecue apron. I think it's important to take something as simple as a barbecue apron or an apron in general and see how you could innovate on it, iterate on it, come up with some interesting ideas. I do want to take that bar at the top and ultimately replace it with a magnet strip that I could use in the shop. If you had to make an apron, what would you do? Think about it. And when you build that apron, make sure you use all the supplies you get here at Weaver Leather. Thank you very much, Weaver.